I think one of the main challenges that we've always faced when you're working with on the issues faced by students from African countries in India is around this word racism and race, right? Because people are very sensitive in India about talking about being accused of racism. The first response is always that we're not racist, you're brown as well. How can we possibly be racist? And I think one of the challenges that at least I've always experienced, is in being able to, in some sense, break down what is racism and what is harassment and discrimination. And does it only have to depend on an account of interpersonal behavior? Like, oh, I did not say this to you, or I am behaving like this with you because whatever, I happen to have a personal fight with you. It's not because I'm targeting you because of who you are. And I think it helped me understand this because some of the first cases that we encountered weren't actually of harassment, as in being harassed on the streets or being attacked by a mob. It was about how the entire structure of which brings many students, not all students, but many students from various African countries to India, in some sense is geared towards a form of exploitation. So the first case I remember dealing with as part of Alternative Law Forum was about this group of 6 students from Uganda who were studying in a college called Sri Omkar College in that's near Hendur Cross. And what had happened to them was basically that they had come into India to study among many other degrees, BCom, then somebody was studying I think BCA, so several degrees. And also very importantly, a lot of these private colleges often do not offer your technical degrees, so they won't offer BTechs or medicine or law. They will offer you non-technical courses like BCA or BCom, because I think from their perspective also it's easier to get certification for these courses and set up a college than it is to get for a slightly more technical course such as a BTech or a PLLB or a medicine, so on and so forth. So these students were studying in this college, and what had happened was that when you come to India, you come on a student visa and you come on a residential permit. And the moment you enter India, your student visa is granted to you by the consular office in your home country. But the moment you enter India, you have to register at the District Foreigners Regional Registration Office, the FRRO, which in Bangalore is in Shantinagar. And when you register there, you get your residential permit as well. So you have 2 documents that go hand in hand, your RP as well as your visa. Technically, your RP should be for the duration of the visa. So if your visa is for 3 years, which is the duration of your course, your RP should also be for 3 years. But what the FRRO here does is that they ask you to register or extend your RP by a year or 6 months or 3 months or 8 months, whatever really be the whim or fancy of the FRRO at that point of time. And in that, they ensure that the student keeps coming back to them. In order to get an RP, or even in order to get your visa extended, say you want to stay here for a longer period of time, you want to pursue your masters or something, you have to get something called a bona fide certificate from your college, which says that you are a bona fide student of this college, and therefore you are entitled to the extension of this educational document. This bona fide certificate becomes the site of a lot of harassment, because the colleges know exactly what a bona fide certificate is worth to a student. Without that bona fide certificate, you don't get an extension of your residential permit. Therefore, you can literally use that certificate to bargain with the student. You can say, you pay us more, you pay us this much amount, we won't give you this until you do these things. If you're protesting against the college, we are going to withhold your certificate, so on and so forth. The other thing that happens, which is what we encountered in the case of the students from Sri Omkar College, was that colleges often hold on to the original documents of students. So the passport and visa and the residential permit, all of which are original documents, are withheld by the college. Now it is illegal to do that. You're not supposed to withhold the original documents of any person. However, it is done, and then, as happened in the case of the students, these students, when the time came for them to apply for the extension of the visa, of the residential permit, not the visa, they found that the college was not giving them the documents till they paid a certain amount of money. So they had to pay a huge amount of money to be able to get even their own passport back from the college, so that they can give it to the FRRO for visa extension and RP extension. And obviously this meant that many of the students, by the time we managed to file a police complaint, go to the SHRC, get the documents out, their visas had already expired. And once your visa expires, and that is the horror of the Foreigners Act and the Foreigners Regulations, is that there really isn't much scope for the authority, I mean, it is always up to the discretion of the authority, but the Act does not allow you much scope to address these questions of harassment. Like, my passport was not with me because it was illegally withheld from me by the college. Or my passport was not with me because I lost it, or it got stolen, or it expired, and the embassy of my country is not giving me my passport on time, and therefore I'm not being able to apply for visa extension. The Act does not recognize any of these grounds as a ground for delay. As a result, the FRRO does not really give two hoots about whether or not your document is expired for legitimate reasons, whether your document was stolen, whether your document was withheld. They do not care. If your visa is expired, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to say either you will be arrested because you're staying in India on an expired visa, Section 13 of the Foreigners Act kicks in, or we are going to give you an exit visa. Take it and go. If you leave the country on an exit visa, obviously on the face of it, that might seem as the better solution because at least I'm not being arrested. At least I can go back to my home country and come back to the country on a fresh visa and resume education. Except as a matter of practice, if you've left the country on an exit visa, you are not going to get another visa from your home country. And this is something that students have understood through experience, the painful experience of taking the lesser evil of an exit visa if their visas have expired for very legitimate reasons and the college and the FRR is not extending them. They thought, I'll take the exit visa, I'll go back to my home country, I'll come back. They realized they could not come back and their courses remained in suspension. So even with the students of Sri Omkar College, while some of them, 5 out of the 6 students were able to, over the course of time, complete their courses and leave the country. They were able to change colleges, get their documents, finish their course and eventually leave the country. One student continues to be in India right now because he is being prosecuted under the Foreigners Act. Because his visa had expired, a case was lodged against him and we couldn't stop this case from being lodged. It was the only case that was lodged and he continues to be prosecuted and he continues to be out on bail waiting for the case to get over at some point of time. So this incident, or this series of incidents sort of gave us an insight on how students are really in something brought sometimes from countries in Africa and they are put through the grinder through private colleges in India. And if you somehow manage to survive the grinder 4-5 years and leave the country, that's great, you have a degree from a good college, from a respectable university. If you don't, then you are often stuck here being prosecuted by the Indian courts.
So, based on my research as well as speaking to different mix of college students last year, this requirement of a bona fide certificate at least is not expected from everyone, is it? Or is this process, this experience of having your residential permit extended every 6 months or a year, or for that matter producing a bona fide certificate to the FRRO, is it a requirement for every foreign student in India?
To my understanding, first of all, the extension of residential permit itself is a problematic thing because the Act does not, or the regulations or the rules do not anywhere specify that the residential permit should not be of the duration of the visa. Okay, so this is really a mechanism which the FRRO, from some part of their extremely messed up brain, thought of as a way in which we can get students to keep coming to us again and again. Their justification is that we do this because students drop out and they don't tell us. Our answer is, you're not the principal of the college. It's not your job to determine whether or not the student is studying. It is up to the university and the college to do that sort of due diligence. So that itself is not a requirement. As far as a bona fide certificate is concerned, to my understanding, it is a requirement that's made of all students. The fact that you are studying. But then that's the thing, that if you're not supposed to be renewing your bona fide, your RP every year, then you literally have to submit your bona fide certificate only once in your life, which is at the time of registration and the first time when you come to India. After that, the college has no need for you to, for them to keep giving you RPs. So in that sense, what you're saying is correct. That this thing of recurrent bona fide certificates is not necessary, because this thing of a recurrent extension of a residential permit itself is not necessary. But it's a way in which they maintain surveillance over the students.
Right. And they feel that somewhere the surveillance is more focused and required for students coming from African countries. Is this based on any kind of FRRO policy regulation of keeping a check on students coming from a certain list of countries, maybe?
I I would love to catch hold of a policy like that, really, because then we could drag him to court for this. But unfortunately, I don't think the FRR was stupid enough to actually have a policy on paper. It is understood. The way in which they interact with, say, Chinese nationals and, say, students from African countries are very, very different. We've had a case of a Chinese national who overstayed his visa by 3 months, happily got an exit visa, went off and came back also to the country. I mean, there was absolutely nothing, no hiccup in his movement in and out of the country, which is great, which is how things should be. But when it comes to students from African countries, I don't think there is a policy per se, but I think it is understood among the FRRO that they have to perceive students from African countries as a law and order problem, and they perceive it primarily as a law and order issue, which is that they come here, they cause problems, we need to keep an eye on them. At the same time, we must also understand that they are not doing anything to regulate or to, for example, given the number of complaints and letters that we've drafted on behalf of students and given to the FRRO, saying that my college is harassing me, which is why I have delayed. One would think the FRRO would send a simple letter to either the MHA or to Bangalore University or to Rajiv Gandhi University, saying that please, these are these colleges, they're doing all of these things. Can you please stop it so that our headache is reduced? FRRO is not concerned with that. We've also heard from students that that is because there's a nexus between the colleges and the FRRO. And colleges in conversations have proved that when a principal of the college might be like, oh, you're doing all of this, let me call up Ganesh Kumar and he will make sure that your visa gets stalled. Now, could be empty faff, could be actual threat, we don't know. But I would not be surprised if there is an actual nexus between private colleges and the FRRO, simply because private colleges are sending agents to African countries to get students from there. There are agencies set up in different parts of Africa saying that, oh, these are the sort of loans we offer, these are the sort of scholarships we offer. One would think that India is like some sort of a paradise when it comes to free education. I mean, from at least the accounts that I've heard, that it's very it's shown to be this fantastic place, which is great education and it's almost all free and you get everything. And students are pretty much, in some sense, because there's good quality education and opportunities, as you said, students come here, seeing all of that. So there is a flow of capital also involved here. There's an investment that's happening in bringing students. There's a certain flow of capital that's happening in terms of fees coming into colleges. And at some point of time, some of that capital is lining the FRRO's pocket.